voice of the fan. Drop a bounce pass, throw down the rim rocker. Lay up off the glass, right past the shot blocker. I follow through like Kobe's is money, you can cash it. For news on LA Hoops, come over to Peach Basket. Up-to-date sports, post-game reports, debates and play-by-play coming straight off the court. The voice of the fan.
All right. The NBA regular season is over. It's shocking. Not so much that it's over, but just when you look back at what this season was like, the fact that we had 10 less games, the fact that we had nobody in the stands for a while, the fact that we've got this play-in tournament, just a wild season. But it's over. Week 21 was the end, and we get to now take a look back. Take a look back at what the last week was like, and we're going to kind of talk a little bit about the play-in tournament and the playoffs, because it stands to reason that we do. But we're really going to emphasize our power rankings. Once again, I'm going to go over what distinguishes these power rankings from other ones that you might have seen. We do it a little differently. We try to take subjectivity out of it. It really doesn't matter what team I like or what team you like. What matters is who played who, where they played them, and what the result was. You get points based on those things. That's it. So it makes it, a little bit more, I think, even-keeled, a little bit more objective as opposed to subjective. Here's how it works. Quality team, if you beat them on the road, you get 11 points. Obviously, beating a good team on their home turf is tough. You get a little extra bump for that. We call that a quality win. You lose to a bad team at home, you don't get anything for that, and that's going to cost you. We call those bad losses. So as you look through our rankings, really take a look for that special column for quality wins and bad losses, because those do cost you or bump you up just a little bit. And you can see where the other points fall in terms of whether you beat a quality, a good, or a bad team. So what's really important in our ranking system is to determine what teams are quality, what teams are good, what teams are bad. This is how we broke it down this season. We start the season by categorizing the teams. We take a look at the All-Star break. This season, we took a look again after the All-Star break. First time since I've been doing it that we did that. But this is where they landed. The Jazz, the Blazers, the Nuggets, the Suns, the Mavs, the Clippers, and the Lakers are quality teams. The good teams are the Spurs, the Warriors, the Pelicans, and the Grizzlies. Interesting, that of those lists, of that list, quality and good, the only team that really is no longer playing for anything are the Pelicans. I don't know if I'm ready to drop them to bad, but we'll see what the offseason looks like for them. The bad teams, the Rockets, the Wolves, the Kings, and the Thunder. So using that as kind of the criteria, let's take a look at what the final week of the NBA regular season did for the teams. There isn't a lot of movement. This is the first week in a long time when we only had two teams that swapped places. So you're going to notice a lot of the same teams in the same place as last week. The Rockets, unfortunately for them, finished at the bottom. They looked good. They looked competitive in the final games that I saw them play, but I don't think that the team that ended this season is going to look anything like the team that starts next season. Certainly there'll be some new players because of the draft. There'll probably be some trades, a lot of movement. But the Houston Rockets right now are holding everybody else up. The Oklahoma City Thunder finished at number 14. Some good players, a good foundation, I think, for the Thunder. But what's really, on the plus side for them is the fact that they've got a lot of draft picks over several years. So it'll be very interesting to see what team they build there. The Timberwolves come in at 13. This is a team that, unlike the other two, is kind of more built to win now with Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell. They had high hopes this season. Things didn't work out. I don't know that we're going to see a lot of change in the Timberwolves, but hopefully we'll see better results than the season they had this year. The Pelicans, like the Wolves, were built to win this year. They were the team that had the second most nationally televised games this season, second only to the Lakers, because they always thought that, Zion Williamson and that young group of former Lakers was going to do some damage. They didn't. Again, like the Wolves, I don't know that they're going to make a lot of changes this offseason. They've obviously got a talented group. We just have to see who stays, who goes, and what changes are in store for the Pelicans. The Kings come in at number 11. And the reason they're this high, I have had some Kings fans ask me why they're this high. And look at that QW column, the quality wins. They had more quality wins than anybody at the bottom of the ranking, which is what gave them that extra bump. So they came in at 11. I have been on the Kings bandwagon for a while. I think this is a good team. I think they've got a good foundation. They've just got to build around De'Aaron Fox, Halliburton. I think likely have to make a change at the coaching level. I'm not a particularly big fan of what Luke Walton did when he was with the Lakers or here with the Kings. But anytime you talk getting rid of a coach, you got to ask yourself who are we going to bring in instead. So we'll see. Maybe they stay status quo, and at some point Luke Walton will figure it out, because he obviously had some success with the Warriors. But I think that's what the big takeaway, right? I could probably coach really well with Steph Curry and that team in Golden State. Certainly, what they had a couple of years ago was spectacular. The Kings aren't the Warriors of a couple of years ago. San Antonio, the Spurs come in at 10, and now we're starting to kind of, draw the line between the teams that, aren't playing and the teams that still are. San Antonio gets a chance to play for the 8th seed. They come in at number 10 in our ranking. The Memphis Grizzlies, they are the one team that we moved from bad to good this season. They come in at number 9. They'll be playing the San Antonio Spurs in that play-in tournament. The Golden State Warriors come in at number 8. Steph Curry's been spectacular for them. Notice that there's been literally no movement from last week to this week. They've got the highly anticipated matchup in the play-in against the Los Angeles Lakers. Coming in at number 7, the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks that lost to the Clippers last season in the playoffs get them again. I think that's going to be a great battle. The Lakers come in at number 6. Again, still no movement. Like we mentioned before, the Lakers play Golden State for the 7th seed. In the play-in tournament, it'll be very interesting to see that game. That's a game I'm most hyped up about, to be honest. I think it's going to be a great battle. Both teams, Golden State and the Los Angeles Lakers, went 4-0 to end the regular season, so they're both coming in relatively healthy. When I say relatively healthy, obviously Klay Thompson is still out for Golden State, so it's probably not a fair statement. But the key players now, are healthy. Same for the Lakers, more or less. LeBron is as close to 100% as he's going to get, I think, for the balance of his career, based on what they've said. So it'll be a good battle. It'll be very, very interesting to see what happens in that matchup. Portland came in at number 5. They will be playing, I think, Denver, right? Yeah, they got Denver in the playoffs. Dame wants to win a championship for Portland. A lot of credit to him for staying when he could have gone. We'll see if this is their year. Denver, you see, they dropped. They were number 3 last week. They dropped to 4. They've got Portland, like we mentioned. Denver's a very, very good team. They've got MVP candidate in the Joker. We'll see what they do against Portland. That'll be an interesting matchup. The Clippers backed into this postseason. Their last 2 games, they didn't play anybody on the regular rotation, and they lost both games. So there's a lot of a lot to say about that on Twitter and just in columns and on ESPN. But the Clippers, when you look at that QW column, the quality win. They've got a lot of them, and that was the one distinction between them and Denver. Denver's last loss of the season, on the last game of the season, cost them that number 3 power ranking standing. And the Clippers, even though they lost, continued to have that bump because of the quality wins. And this is interesting. If you look at that quality wins column, surprisingly to see the Lakers with only 9. The Lakers it's so interesting. They're going to go into the playoffs at best at number 7, at worst at number 8. And they're by far the most dangerous 7 or 8 seed ever in the history of the NBA playoffs, by far. But that is a discouraging number. Only 9 quality wins, where everybody else that's in this playoff or playing, with the exception of San Antonio, has got double digits in quality wins. And what that says is that the Lakers aren't beating the good teams at home, the quality teams. They're losing those games. Now, if you look at the bad losses, they don't lose to bad teams, but there are no more bad teams, right? You're not playing bad teams anymore. In the playoffs, you're playing good and quality teams. So that QW column becomes really important. We'll see. You don't want to count against the Lakers. You don't want to count against LeBron James. But that is concerning to see that they only were able to pull off 9 quality wins this season. But anyway, we're talking about the Clippers, and I bounced to the Lakers. Sorry about that, Clipper fans. Oh, shoot. I went backwards. That's odd. Phoenix comes in at number 2. Phoenix will likely play the Los Angeles Lakers. Should they beat the Golden State Warriors, they'll play whoever comes in at 7. And then Utah Jazz, congratulations to them for not only being number 1 in our power rankings, but also being number 1 overall. That's quite an accomplishment for a small market team. It's quite an accomplishment for any team, for goodness sakes, right? They will play whoever comes in at 8. Potentially the Golden State Warriors, potentially the Los Angeles Lakers, potentially the San Antonio Spurs, potentially the Memphis Grizzlies. I'd hate to be a Utah Jazz coach right now because you don't know who to prepare for. That's rough. I think if I was the Jazz, though, I'd be prepping for Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. That seems to be the best bet. And can you imagine that number 1 first round matchup? Utah gets Golden State. Phoenix potentially gets the Lakers. It's not fair. It's not a good time to be number 1 or 2 in the West. That's it. Those are the final week's rankings, power rankings, based on math. No objectivity, all subjective. I think I was the other way around. It's been a long season. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Thank you so much for listening. The playoffs are going to be great. They're going to be exciting, and we're going to be here for it. We're the Peach Basket. We're a site dedicated to all things basketball. Thanks for watching.
The court, the voice of the fan, making noise, causing havoc. Zone a man up, you can ask Peach Basket. The Peach Basket, coming tune on air. The Peach Basket, where the news begins.